Welcome back, everyone, as we open the 2023 year and season 4 with Craig Landon Siegel. Craig is the founder of Cultivate Lasting Symphony. He is an entrepreneur, coach, and motivational speaker. He is also the host of the CLS Experience podcast and speaker that combines energy, motivation, inspiration, and authenticity that has led him to being recognized by the likes of Entrepreneur Magazine, MSN, Yahoo Finance, among many others. Craig, welcome to the show.
Wow. So that's what it feels like to be on the other end of an introduction. Thank you so much, brother. You and I probably could have chatted for an hour before we record, but we're like, let's save the juicy stuff for the show. I appreciate you. I respect you. I'm glad to be here. Let's rock.
Outstanding. Well, I'm excited about this. The very first episode of the new year and new season. And folks, we're going to be speaking about broken men. There's something about broken men that obviously touches my heart. I have been a broken man, right? And I'll tell you that right out the bat. But I got healed. I was set free and rejuvenated, right? And Craig, you talk about redesign, re-energizing, and reinventing, it's your 3 pillars there, and then some other things that we're going to be talking about here. But before we get into that, tell us a little bit about your background and we'll get in it.
Yeah, so I'll cut right to it. I'm a man of reinvention. Let me explain. Spent 13 years on Wall Street, had a successful career based upon finance and monetary components. But as it turns out, as I realize now, at that season of life, I was a bit more unenlightened and immature. I measured success by how much money you make. Clearly, that's not the case. Nowadays, if you ask me, I measure success by how happy you are and how big of an impact you make. So make a long story short, I was doing the stock thing for a while. It was a lot of fun until it wasn't. It could be very unpredictable and stressful. I pivoted from there and I started my own business, also in finance, not exactly the same, less stressful, still lucrative, but I wasn't exactly putting a dent in the universe, brother, if I'm being honest with you. At some point, a few years back, found myself in a pretty dark season. A few things happened at once. I'd gotten out of a toxic relationship. My best friend in the world, my dad, had got diagnosed with cancer. And straight up, even though I had my own business, which I was grateful for, it felt like a job. I was the type of cat, and it pains me to say this, but on Mondays, I was looking forward to the weekend. And I started to realize, like, that's not why I'm here. I know this isn't how life's supposed to be. And ultimately, I just didn't like the reflection I saw in the mirror. Eventually, a little while after that, I'm not sure if I found running or running found me, but I needed something. I was looking for an outlet, and I needed to prove to myself that I'm not an imposter. I am here for a reason. And so I started running a bunch of marathons, which is really special. In fact, just ran one a couple months back. But I wasn't looking to become a professional runner. I was just looking to find myself, and running sure helped that. Fast forward the pandemic, bang. Talk about a global awakening, right? I looked around and I saw a lot of Netflix and a lot of day drink, and I said, that's not going to be me. For the first time in my adult life, I did not have an organized, structured routine because my office was shut down. And I just said to myself, I had always felt called. I knew that I'm here for more, which I believe we all are. If there was ever a moment to become available, to have that spiritual moment, to receive those creative divine downloads, it's now. And so from studying personal development for so long, it occurred to me that maybe personal development was more than a passion. Maybe it was my purpose. And then I said, well, what are my gifts? And humbly, I can communicate pretty effectively. And so I married those two concepts, my passion and my gift. And I started Cultivate Lasting Symphony, or CLS, a play on my initials, Craig Landon Siegel. I didn't want to be the next Tony Robbins. I want to be the first Craig Siegel. You never know how something like this will transpire, but I knew this. I knew that if I don't take this shot, now that I finally have clarity, the cost of inaction will be the greatest prize of all. And so I took my shot, and very humbly over the last 2 years, we have one of the top business podcasts on the planet, sponsored by Mark Cuban, some of the world's biggest celebrities on, talking about mindset, success, speaking all over the world. We're just in Portugal in front of 70,000. We just signed a massive lucrative book deal with Wiley for a first-time author, speak communities, coaching, all of it. Sold the business on Wall Street. This is it for me in some capacity, brother. And I reinvented myself, and I want others to know that they too can do the same. And I like to believe we're just getting warmed up.
Absolutely. And, talk about reinvention. This is about the time everybody gets acclimated to, oh my goodness, what did I do in 22 or the year prior, whichever year you might want to select? And what am I going to do now? And so, as we cover this topic of broken men, it's like I said, it's something near and dear to my heart. What tell us a little bit more about CLS? I do know it's your initials. I do know it's a podcast issue, but what's your goal there specifically with CLS?
My goal is to showcase the world that reinvention is ready when you are. I know that sadly, most people are not where they'd like or hope that they'd be at this time. Most people know that they're here for more than they're currently doing. And I know this because I have contrast, because that was me 2.5 years ago. But the moment that you decide that you are here for more, you do have an assignment, you do have gifts, and then you take some inspired action, not something, everything can change in an instant in all areas of life, just like it did for me. And if I could do it, so can everybody else. And I want everybody to know that that's possible for them.
And that's amazing. This morning, I'll tell you, this morning I was you're just reflecting, and I take my time. I don't rush into the day. I take my time. I do some reflection. I do a lot of thinking, because I do know that last night a lot of people did not make it to see this day. And so I'm very grateful for that. But in my time of reflection, and you the older you get, the more conscious of the end date, right? That you become. I almost came to tears, because I've done so much, I've accomplished so much, but kind of like what you was talking about earlier, right? They are accolades, and there are awards, and there are all these lauds that you can get throughout life, but it doesn't define you. It doesn't fulfill you. And not that I'm not living my purpose, but there's some areas that I thought by now I would be at, right? And so, when we talk about broken men, and you have mentioned, and I told you that I made a switch on the title because of something you mentioned on social media, which is, hey, what about the men? Where, where are you? I get a lot of love here, but let's talk about this area where men are hiding behind accolades, men are hiding behind titles, men are hiding behind positions, but they're broken. And so I wanted to speak about that, because you bring up a good point about mindset. And hey, this is ready for you. It's waiting for you. So what role does mindset have in the repairing process of a broken man?
Mindset is the key to life, my man, straight up, right? Like, and it's funny because a lot of people that come to work with me or apply to work with me and so forth, they see this meteoric rise of CLS and they say, I want to do what you're doing. And I say back to them, but do you want to do what I did? Right. And what I did was, when most people were watching this tiger show on Netflix, doing a lot of nothing in the pandemic, I got to work. I was building a personal brand. I was putting myself out there. I was making connections, right? Because my mindset was that I need to be available. And most people aren't available. They want a quick fix, or there's a fear of failure, or there's a fear of what other people might think of them, or they lack confidence, or they feel unworthy, right? And so mindset is the key to replace those limiting beliefs with more empowering, productive, and constructive beliefs, and then create new habits and thus new results. So you can have the greatest strategies in the world, but if you're not available for the abundance out there, if you're not a vibrational match for all the good stuff, if you're not confident or you don't feel worthy, the best strategies in the world won't matter. But on the flip side, you can have a lack of strategies, but a great mindset, and you're available to figure things out, to be resourceful, to be creative, to work, to put yourself out there, to make things happen, to try new things, to meet people. So mindset is everything. Of course, there is a percentage that is strategies and tactics, but none of that will matter if your mindset's not right.
And you make me mindful when you say strategies of structure. When we talk about rebuilding a man
Mhm.
from rubble or from a situation that may have, crumbled beneath their feet, structure is necessary. You got to reevaluate. And right now, a lot of people are reevaluating their last year or their entire life. And structure has a way of giving you the opportunity to get right where you need to get right.
That's
So
it.
why is having a structure so important if you want to be whole?
You can't hit a target if that you can't see, in my opinion, right? So you want to have a vision. Now, I'm a big believer in marry the process, divorce the outcome. I think a lot of people, I used to do this myself, they'd set New Year's resolutions, right? Or they have these big moonshot of goals and they put so much attachment towards so much pressure that if they're not making enough progress, they eventually give up. I mean, statistics alone show that most people fail their New Year's resolutions before February. I mean, what does that tell you? Right. So, what I think you should do is you should absolutely journal, whiteboard, whatever's good for you, put together a vision, have an intention, but then divorce from that outcome and just marry the process every day. How can, for those of you that know football, like you don't need to get a touchdown every day, but something that you could control is a first down, right? Every day that you show up, there's something that you can do to move yourself forward, to help yourself, to build your brand, to be a better person, right? And it's not so much as what do I have to do as it is who do I have to become to attract the things and create the life that I desire, to make that sort of contribution. So definitely have structure in regards to have a game plan, but don't be attached to it. Fall in love with what can you do today to set up a better tomorrow.
Now, I love that you mentioned intentionality in that process because it really does require you to be intentional in what you want to do. This February lapse, right? This is true. It happens. You go in this thing, you have a game plan, you go whiteboard all you want, and in 30 days, it's done because people fall into bad habits, right? They fall into their old way of doing easily because it's something that's been practiced. So where does accountability make the most impact as we try to mend ourselves or a person tries to mend themselves in this way of becoming a better person?
I think accountability is huge. I think it's actually a cheat code, right? No matter what it is that you're doing, you should have a coach, a mentor, someone that can hold you accountable. I assume accountability in many different ways. I like to put my intentions out there for the world. It's funny because, and I'm writing a big book right now, which I'm really excited about. And one of the chapters, I was just thinking about this. It's like we have to unlearn certain things and then relearn them, right? Like, for example, when I was a kid growing up, I love my parents so much, they're the best. But one thing that they used to do is like, you couldn't say that you wanted a certain result of something because then you'd be jinxing it because they were very superstitious. Oh, don't say that, it won't happen. So I was wired like that until I started really working on myself. I realized the opposite. No, you should absolutely set your intentions because that's how you manifest things. You put it out there. So it's just, I like to put things out there because it holds me accountable. The universe holds me accountable. I'll even be as bold as to put things on social media, like if I'm running a marathon or whatever the case may be. I remember before I got engaged last year, I tell my fiance now when she wasn't at the time, we're going to get engaged, so forth. It's good to set the intentions. It's a sense of accountability. But also for anyone out there that doesn't work with someone like a coach or a mentor, like that's the most powerful thing you could do. You should take pride in having a coach or a mentor, someone that could guide you, give you a different perspective, help you accelerate your growth, because they'll also hold you accountable, right? So I think accountability is absolutely huge, and it's a cheat code, and it's something that should be looked at as pleasure, not pain.
I love that you bring up your parents and the things that we pick up as a kid because you know modeling and anchoring has its benefits, and it also has drawbacks, and depending on who it is that you modeling and anchoring on, right? And there's some things that they were, that were told to us in the best of intentions, but really were not practical in the way we were to go about life. So, what are the benefits of modeling and anchoring for the broken man?
So modeling is a really powerful tool that I learned when I started studying NLP, or neuro linguistic programming, about 15 years ago when I first stumbled upon personal development. Essentially, the concept is as follows. Find people that are doing something at a very high level that you'd like to do, and then model their behaviors, right? Like, how do they walk? How do they talk? What are they doing right? What would be the quality of their thoughts? And then by modeling them, you start to, it's contagious. You start to level up, right? And this is like a cheat code, because this isn't fake it till you make it. This is simple. Like, the world already has enough information out there. Like, no one's necessarily reinventing the wheel. Like, there's a lot of knowledge out there, right? So look at some of the high achievers that are potentially sitting in a seat that you'd like to see it in, and say, well, what are they doing really well? What time did they wake up? Did they hit the snooze button? Probably not. Are they out like drinking and doing all these things? Probably not. So if you start to model their behaviors, all of a sudden you immediately level up. And the best part about that is that this is the cheat code. If you have limiting beliefs, let's just say, oh, I'm afraid to post, I want to start a fitness brand, whatever the case is, but I'm afraid to put myself out there. What are people going to think? What if you decided to remove what you would think, and you start modeling someone that you hold in high regard? Now, all of a sudden, you don't have room for the limiting beliefs, because I'm saying, well, what would Arnold Schwarzenegger do right now? What would Tom Brady do right now? You know what I'm saying? So what would those cats do that are already successful? And then I would model them, and I would start to show up more confidently. And eventually, I would find myself, my confidence would catch up, and I have my own model that's Craig 2.0, so to speak. But in the beginning, modeling certain attributes of people that already achieve success is a cheat code.
Absolutely. And I love the looking towards something, looking towards someone that is where you think you want to be. And a lot of people keep surrounding themselves with folks that are not. And so, no wonder we may have trouble breaking through and becoming whole as a man when we're broken. You cannot be a broken vase and look towards another broken vase and say, they got something for me. You have to go to somewhere where they got it right. They're not broken, and you can look toward. A lot of that deals with relationships. And so sometimes we are not as savvy to break some relationship that may not be serving us. And so, what sort of relationships should I be looking for to strengthen my journey as I'm trying to become whole?
Yeah, I love that. And like, just by surrounding yourself with the right people, right? Seeing how other people operate, what are they doing really well? How can I start to rewrite the story in my head? How can I start to be more productive? How can I be more strategic with the thoughts that I allow to take up real estate inside my mind? Because ultimately, here's a kicker, right? That I think a lot of people don't realize. Thoughts and words are not facts. Thoughts are random, thinking is not. So just the simple fact that if we're ever in an off frequency, we're not feeling our best, it's just feedback from the universe saying, oh, your thoughts must be disempowering right now. And as a result, you have limiting beliefs and you feel lousy. But what if I were to go back in and say, you know what? I'm going to choose a different thought, one that says, I am empowered. I am excited. I'm enthusiastic. I'm abundant. I'm ready to rock. Now, all of a sudden, you start to believe that. And now you create a whole new vibe, right? And your vibe attracts your tribe. So just being strategic with your thoughts, surrounding yourself with the right people, and just being intentional with every single thing that you do, right? Like, I imagine there was an intention for you to start the year off with this specific episode. Maybe it was a topic, whatever the case should be. Just be intentional and always have a reason for the things that you do.
Absolutely. And you bring up exactly my thought process. When I set out to do this podcast, there are two people who are guaranteed. The first speaker of the year and the last speaker of the year. And the very first speaker of the year, I choose intentionally. So, kudos to you, brother, for being that person this year.
Thank you.
Uh,
I'm honored.
and and it was all because of what you just said. You have to start surrounding yourself with people that are making deep impact on this earth. And not on the geographical or but the footprint of man, humans, where it counts. But at a minimum, you know, choose people who are looking for your best interest. They are having your best interest at heart, and your development, your betterment. And that those two people that I pick every year are those two people. So thank you for being that, brother.
Thank you.
And you have so much to share. The personal development, the cultivating lasting symphony, which I love the words that are compiled in that, and your energy. If someone's listening, they wanted to say, you know what, let me dig in a little more on Craig. Didn't hear about this brother yet, but let me dig in. Where should they go, and where do you want them to find you?
Yeah, great question, brother. You can find us anywhere on social media. It's usually at Craig Siegel _CLS. Anywhere you listen to podcasts, the CLS experience. Come into a bookstore near you in 2023, the reinvention formula. Our website, cultivatelastingsymphony.com. We'll have ways that you can work with us, whether it be the community, the CLS membership, the masterminds. We're doing a live event in New York City, February 11th, which we're really excited about. Masterminding great people. It's the room you want to be in. And we're renting out a private room in New York City's finest restaurant. Just search, you'll find us. But also, I would say this: come say hello. I love to interact with everybody. If you guys like daily inspiration, you could join our free texting community. Just text 917-634-3796 and text me the word Enrique, so I know that you heard it from this conversation, and come say hello.
Outstanding. Well, folks, we're going to make sure to have that as part of the video and show notes. Craig, brother, I have appreciated what you've done so far. Thank you for taking that downtime and reinventing yourself. Because really, right now, that investment that you did back then is reaping rewards now, not only for you personally, but for those that are listening. And so thank you for doing that. Folks, today's episode is sponsored by Triad Leadership Solutions and Superpass, which are powering our website and app. If you've enjoyed this episode and learned something interesting about the topic covered today, make sure to subscribe and let us know by leaving a comment right now. And we're always looking for new ideas and guests that we can add to our show. So if you know someone or have a topic that you would like featured on the podcast or want to sponsor our show, we love to hear about it by emailing us at triadleadershipsolutions@gmail.com. Be sure to tune in next week for another episode where we dissect leadership from another angle. And as we like to end the show, success to you and Happy New Year.